go, and I'm going to be recapping the entire card as well as breaking down every single fight that happened on the card. I want to break down a lot of these fights. I've got some interesting takes about some of these fights, so let me know what you think of them in the comments below, and let's get into this. Starting off with Marco Merdos versus Mark Truinsky. Listen, when I saw Marco Merdos hurt Mark Truinsky with a leg kick, I already knew we were in for a long night. I saw Joe Rogan on the commentary desk, and I thought, it's going to be a long night, because Marco Merdos, he was working that leg kick all night. He was chewing up his leg. It was money for him. Mark Truinsky couldn't check it to save his life. Joe Rogan, listen, he had a stinker on this card. And listen, obviously I understand he needs to, say what's going on in the fight. If he sees a calf kick, he is on it like a car bonnet, right? He's on it. He's saying, "Oh, that's swelling on the calf." I swear, Joe Rogan doesn't actually watch the fight. He just watches the fighter's calves, and as soon as he sees a little bit of swelling, he goes, "Ooh." People forget, man. Benson Henderson. Sorry about that. So let's go answer the door. I kind of messed with my flow a little bit, but we're gonna try and weave my way back into it. Speaking of flow, Joe Pyfer. We'll get onto that a little bit later. Moving on. Not moving on. What am I talking about? Round number 2. Merdos he's chewing up the lead pretty badly. He's breaking and striking. I mean, I like Merdos' style. He's stinging him with a stiff jab, and especially when he's up against the fence, he's not trying to hold Truinsky against the fence. He's not trying to stall out. He reverses the clinch position, breaks, strikes, separates. I like Merdos' style. I like him as a fighter. He said he was doing it for the light-skinned boys. I mean, I'm not light-skinned myself, but, I'm behind the movement, you know what I mean? Truinsky was trying to poke his eyes out for the entire fight, though, and did land a shot after the bell, so we're probably never going to see this man in the UFC ever again. Plus, he had absolutely no answers for Marco Merdos at all. It was a 30-27 performance. I think we should fire the judge who gave it 29-28. I don't see how you give Mark Truinsky a single round here, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. Nothing's going to happen with judging in MMA. It's very annoying. I'm not going to waste my breath on it. Moving on. Kilian Salkild versus Yanel Ashmouz. Now, Salkild's very skilled. He tried to mix in his grappling a little bit more, try to give like a showcase of his skills effectively. I think him versus Chase Hooper would be a very interesting fight if they were to meet at some point, in terms of if Chase Hooper was a little bit inactive and then Salkild caught up a little bit. You know what I mean? In terms of where they are in their careers. I think that'd be a very interesting fight to watch, because it's 6'1" lengthy Chase Hooper versus 6 foot lengthy Kilian Salkild. Interesting fight to watch in my opinion. But current fight, him versus Yanel Ashmouz. Salkild controlled him for pretty much the entire round. Good ground and pound. That was round number 1. Ashmouz is built like a dwarf. You know what I'm saying? That, really stubby arms. For his size, apparently for his size, he has perfectly, normal arm length. I don't know, bro. His arms were tiny. So, I'm not sure, but he has really, unorthodox striking. He's a difficult fighter to, fight, I guess. So, for Salkild to do it in the way that he did it, it was a good show of skill, I guess. I gave Ashmouz the last round just because he was, catching Salkild with some big stingers. So, I gave him that last round based on that. But it was a good performance from Salkild. I would like to see him fight a slightly higher level opponent where he isn't, a clear favourite in. You know what I mean? So, that's just some constructive criticism for the UFC matchmakers. Moving on. This was a good one. This was fun for the 28 seconds while it lasted. So, Sarah Gill, he does his thing. He puts on his little hat that's really pointy. If it was white and he was wearing a cloak, then, we might need to have a different conversation. But he puts on his little hat, his pointy hat, whatever. He does his, traditional thing. He walks out. He's aggressive to begin with. And I'm saying, as, we're about 20 seconds into the fight, I'm saying, oh, you need to watch out here. You need to watch out. You watching this video, you need to watch out. And I thought, oh, he needs to watch out here. Sarah Gill, he's almost catching him with some of these strikes. Oh, and he's out cold. No twerk on this left hook from you. Ju Sang Yu. When I tell you this for a fact, no wind up. But no, barely any wind up. No twerk. He just slips back, left hook, catches Sarah Gill clean on the chin. He's out cold. He face plants on the floor. Knockout of the card, in my opinion. I don't know what that sound was. Knockout of the card, in my opinion. Good performance from you specifically. I'm not going to keep using that joke. That's a terrible joke. Moving on. Anyway, not moving on. Good win for you. Give him a higher class opponent that hasn't lost to Anshul Jabli, and maybe we're talking. You know what I'm saying? Moving on. Andre De Silva versus Wang Kong. Once again with the commentary team, butchering Wang Kong's name. Now listen, I know, Chinese names are a bit weird and they don't like directly translate into English, so they were calling her Wang Tong, which maybe that's her Chinese name. I hope it is anyway, otherwise they've just butchered the name entirely, which is insane. How you would do that to a fighter, because then that goes underneath the racism bracket, and then we need to have a conversation about our commentator team. So that's hopefully her name translates to Wong Kong in Chinese, but I don't know why they couldn't just call her Wang Kong like it's advertised on the board and on the little bar at the bottom where it says De Silva versus Wang Kong with like the rounds and stuff. I don't know why they just couldn't care. It doesn't really matter. Wang Kong's landing good calf kicks, and you already know who's sucking her off because of that. Rogan's already on it like a car bonnet again. My man's on it, going, ooh, De Silva, the calf kicks. And to be fair, they did add up, to be fair to him. So I'm kind of, I'm being a little bit too harsh on Rogan. But, they were adding up. They caused Silva to like stumble a little bit and like change her feet. And it did slow her down towards the third round. But it's just every single time a calf kick is landed, it's Joe Rogan just sat there saying, well, this will slow it down. Like, we get it. You know what I mean? It's every single card. I know there's casuals out there. And Joe Rogan was actually dropping the C word a lot during this card. During the next fight, which is Williams versus Gustafsson, which I'm going to talk about because he had a stinker in that one as well, he was dropping the C word a lot. Casuals. He was dropping the C word. I'm thinking, come on, Joe Rogan. We can't be dropping that word when you're a casual yourself, mate. Friendly fire won't be tolerated here. But good win for Wang Kong. We go into round 3 and Rogan's arguing about the unified rules of MMA while the fight is going on. So you're not allowed to, basically, we found out, or Rogan found out in this card, where you're not allowed to stamp on someone's leg, basically. You're allowed to like axe kick it, where you like keep your leg straight, but you're not allowed to like bend it and stand on the knee, effectively. I think that's my understanding of the rule. Rogan, during the third round, was arguing about the unified rules of MMA with DC and who's the analyst on there? How have I forgot his name? It's not. What's his name? Dean Thomas. That's the guy. Dean Thomas. I forgot his name. Can you blame me? Sorry, Dean. Okay. But he's arguing with DC and Dean Thomas about the unified rules of MMA, which is crazy. There's a fight going on, but whatever. It's come on. Yeah, and he's a casual. 30-27 Wang Kong, clearly won, give her a better quality opponent. Moving on. Gustafsson versus Williams. Now, I'm going to touch on Rogan a little bit because, he did kind of have a stinker in this one as well. Beltrod was very quick to break these guys up against the fence. So, they were clinching against the fence for a solid about a minute and a half with not really much happening. They were kind of just reversing position a bit. And we knew this was going to happen. This is Gustafsson's fight. This is how he fights. And Rogan is sat there, and as soon as Beltrod breaks them up, he's on it. He's saying, oh, well, the fans are booing. I don't care if the fans are booing. We shouldn't be breaking them up. If you don't care that the fans that pay your money, I'm like fidgeting with something and it's making a lot of noise and I hate it. But if you don't care that the fans that are watching your sport are booing it and finding it boring, your sport's going to die out very quickly. All right, you got to tailor towards the fans a little bit and accept the fact that if they don't find something entertaining, we probably shouldn't have it in the sport. But Rogan obviously doesn't like that because he's a purist, and then he dropped the C word multiple times. Casuals, that is, he called us all casuals. So if you find any fight boring, you're a casual, according to Joe Rogan. Stinker on commentary, to be honest. But the actual fight breakdown, this was Gus's fight. I was going to pick Gustafsson to win. But then I changed my mind because Gustafsson gets hit a lot. He does no, preparation or tape watching for his fight. He's got some dodgy tattoos that link him back to a certain dictator in the 1940s. And I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I should pick Williams to win this fight. He's got a sharp overhand right. Well, apparently I was wrong because Williams is incapable of, fighting in the clinch. So Gus just mauls him effectively for the entire fight. Gets a 10-8 inside round number 3. Probably pound for pound, the dumbest fighter on the entire roster is Gustafsson because he just does no tape watching whatsoever. He has this really confusing style where it's like nothing happens and then it's like a lot happens. It's weird. Against the fence as well. So it's like you can find it boring, but then you can't find it boring because he's like giving you excuses not to find it boring. It's a really weird fight style. I should have stuck with my pick, to be honest. That's really what makes me mad about this entire card or this entire fight as a whole. But whatever, not really much I can do. In hindsight, I should have stuck with my pick, but I changed it to Williams because I thought Williams was going to win. But it doesn't really matter. Anyway, moving on. Sergey Spivak versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Waldo Cortez Acosta is now a top 7 ranked heavyweight. How has he got here? You know what I mean? You know that Minecraft achievement of how did we get here? And you have to like put your, that just sums up Waldo Cortez Acosta's career at the moment. How is he top 7 inside the UFC heavyweight division? You know what I mean? Spivak could have well won this fight, to be honest. I mean, I thought Spivak won round number 1. Not a single judge gave Spivak round number 1, though, so maybe I'm a muppet. Cortez Acosta's shorts ripped in round number 2 because they decided... I swear, this has never happened before they changed the kits from the old Venom to... Not Venom, Venom to the new Venom contract. So when they changed them to the new Venom shorts, we've had Ian Gary's effective arse hanger when his shorts ripped because he was getting held against the cage. And now Waldo Cortez Acosta's shorts have ripped as well. Like, we haven't really been having this kit malfunction before. You know what I mean? I don't know what they're making these new shorts out of, but then it's not out of, sturdy material. But that's hardly the point. I think, and this actually really made me like open my eyes to a point, and that is heavyweight fights past round 1 are probably pound for pound the worst fights we could possibly have. Like, maybe not the worst. I think women's bantamweight fights are up there with the worst quality fights. And then it goes heavyweight fights past round number 1 because they just stink. If they don't get a first round knockout, they suck. And realistically, in round number 3, I thought Spivak won. I thought Spivak won round 1 and round 3, and it was an argument between volume versus damage. So I thought Spivak was landing the bigger shots, but I guess Waldo Cortez Acosta landed more volume, which are technically bigger. And if you express them as a value of a decimal, you could say that Waldo won. I don't know what I'm talking about. Waldo won. He's now a top 7 ranked heavyweight. I don't know how he's managed to get there. Moving on swiftly. Mirzakhanov versus Ribeiro. Mirzakhanov is fast for the fact that he looks like a melted magnum. He wins in round number 1 via left hook KO. There's not really much I can say about this other than let's not give him Johnny Walker and Ribeiro as the 2 fighters to replace him on short notice. You know what I mean? We gave him Johnny Walker to fight Mirzakhanov. Johnny Walker pulled out again, by the way. This is like the 3rd time he's done it in a row. So then we gave him Ribeiro. Why are we giving him Ribeiro? Can't we find, a different fighter who's hopefully ranked that would fight him and take him on short notice? I guess not. Good win for Mirzakhanov, though. We need to really start giving him some good opponents, though. He was a minus 700 favourite going into this. Round 1 KO for Mirzakhanov. Moving on, Joshua Van. I love Joshua Van. But we starts the fight round number 1. He's already in his arse. I don't know how that's possible. He throws a leg kick and he slipped over. That was the only mistake he really made during the entire fight. Silva was catching him with leg kicks, but Van was just dropping him. He dropped him with a 1-2-3 to begin with in round number 1. Much, much faster than Silva on the feet. Round number 2, Silva is throwing these big overhand rights, which are they're just missing. You're at flyweight and you're telegraphing these big overhand rights. They're never going to land. Van's just moving out the way of them and countering with a good right hand. And he ended up dropping him with one of them, and then he dropped him with a knee, ties the flyweight record for knockdowns in a fight. I think he actually breaks in this fight because he did knock out. Well, he didn't knock him out, but he TKO'd him. So round 2. I mean, Joshua Van's just he's just different gravy, bro. He's just different. He's 23 as well. We are so good. We are good. Me and Joshua Van. Van catch Silva again. Silva just covers up against the cage. I think he folded to a body shot of Joshua Van. And Van just finishes him and puts him out. Absolute chad. Moving on. I don't actually have the Holland versus Luque setup on here. I picked Holland to win, so I'm just going to brush over the fight very quickly. It was a pretty quick fight. We start from round 1. This is Holland versus Luque, by the way. We got Kevin Holland. He's already speaking to Vicente Luque. He's saying, and I watched back the fight, and I've got the official, Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland, what they were talking about in the fight. So Kevin Holland starts off the fight by going, Hey Luque, do you know what a 45-70 is? Do you know what a 45-70 is? And Luque is just stone faced, you know? What's his name? Silent assassin. He's no response. So Kevin Holland takes that as no. He goes, okay, so he doesn't know what a 45-70 is. Hey, Luque, how do you not know your caliber, Luque? You not know what a 45-70 is? You know, big man, requires a big caliber. You know, that type of stuff. And then Luque goes, I've had enough of this, and he jumps onto a shitty single leg. This was a sloppy single leg. So Holland sits there and goes, really, you don't know what a 45-70 is? And then starts bashing his head in while Luque is trying to hold on to the single leg. And he goes, a 45-70 would really help you in this situation because you wouldn't be getting the shit beaten out of you right now. And then, you know, Luque separates whatever. Holland lands a good elbow causing like a hematoma, which is basically just a big ass lump behind the ear of Vicente Luque, which was quite good. And Holland is just a lanky, awkward fighter, and if he fights at welterweight, he's actually got potential to go on some sort of title run, which is insane to say in the big 2025 about Kevin Holland. But Kevin Holland wins round number 1, 10-9. No one really can, you know, debate that. I mean, Luque was landing a good left hook consistently, but it's not really anything to do much about it. And then Kevin Holland cinches up a dash choke on Vicente Luque. And wins the fight. I mean, that's Vicente Luque's move, and Kevin Holland cinches it up. Luque tried to get out of it, but Holland's just too long and, you know, a size bully, I guess, at welterweight. And then he goes to middleweight and he's undersized, so, you know. But Kevin Holland, when he actually tries, he's a world-class fighter. Who would have guessed it? When you actually try and win a fight, you can actually win a fight for once. But, you know, whatever. Moving on. Mario Batista versus Patchy Mix. A lot of people came into this fight underrating Mario Batista. I picked him to win because I'm not an idiot, and I actually watched a few of his fights and realized this guy is a beast. He had one bad performance against Aldo where he held him against the fence, and then suddenly everyone's, you know, calling this guy a pussy. He was a pussy. It was a pussy performance against Aldo, but come on. Mario Batista was locked in, and Patchy Mix, bro. My man's moving like C-3PO. My man's moving like Tin Man from Alice in Wonderland. My man is moving like he's just had neck surgery and he's wearing one of those casts and he has to keep his head still. There was no head movement in that fight. I have more head movement making this video and doing my weird expressions that you can't see because I don't have a webcam than Patchy Mix had during this fight. I mean, Batista switches to southpaw midway through, but let's just focus on the first round. Batista is stinging him with a 1-2, and Patchy Mix can't get past a 1-2 from Mario Batista. The numbers they had, it was pretty close. They had the numbers pretty close. Once again, they whipped out of their arse. I'm not going to lie. I thought Mario Batista was outstriking him in a 2-to-1 ratio, so Patchy Mix would land like a check hook, and Batista would land a 1-2, basically. And there was stinging shots as well. It's like that kept knocking the head of Patchy Mix back, which was the only head movement Mix was doing during this fight, was getting his head knocked back by Mario Batista with a 1-2. Moving on, round number 2, Batista switches to southpaw. Mix is looking very one-dimensional on the feet, yet to shoot a takedown, by the way, and nothing but a check hook at the moment. We go into round number 3. He shoots his first takedown of the fight. He fails it immediately. Took you 10 minutes to shoot a takedown, you grappling specialist, you muppet. Mario Batista is a good wrestler, to be fair to him. Kept outstriking him with a 1-2. Come on. Landed more and better. Clear 3-0 win for Mario Batista. I don't know how Sal Diamano gave a round to Patchy Mix. He should be fired. I mean, he just shouldn't really be, you know, judging any events ever. He just sucks. But, you know, whatever. I'm not going to waste my breath on judging. They suck. We already know this. Moving on. We got Fatty versus Joe Pyfer. Kelvin Gastelum. See, Joe Pyfer, round number 1, he drops Kelvin Gastelum twice. Straight up, he drops him twice. He drops him at the start of the round, drops him at the end of the round. Midway through, he lands a head kick on Gastelum, which he just eats. I know Gastelum's used to eating things, and especially big things, but he just ate the head kick of Joe Pyfer. That head kick would knock anyone except Marvin Vettori out in that middleweight division. I think if you land a head kick on Israel Adesanya, Adesanya's going out. Maybe not Dricus du Plessis, but I think Robert Whittaker, he's probably falling down to the canvas. You know what I mean? Gastelum just fucking eats it like his breakfast, which is probably his third breakfast of the day, we've got to be honest. And then Gastelum just has a solid chin. But the problem is with Pyfer, is he's looking for one big strike. He's throwing one punch combinations. He needs to. The differences between him and someone who, like an Ilia Topuria, I know they're in different weight divisions and they're nowhere near the same fighter, but my point's still going to stand. The differences between like a Joe Python and Ilia Topuria is when Ilia Topuria looks for that knockout blow, his punches are flowing. They're flowing. He's like flowing punches, putting combinations together. I'm doing this behind the microphone now, even though no one can see me. And then he's like landing that knockout blow inside of his combinations. Pyfer was just looking for that knockout blow, and he was basically just sticking his left hand out there and then throwing his right hand after it, basically. So, underwhelming performance. I think Kelvin won round 3 just because he was kind of piecing him up a little bit. But I said Pyfer would win. Pyfer won. I thought he would get it done in round number 1. He should have got it done in round number 1, to be honest. Gastelum should not have been able to take that much punishment, but he did, I guess. So what does it matter? You know what I'm saying? Moving on. Harrison versus Pena. I said Harrison would win by decision. She won by round 2 submission. This was not Kayla Harrison throwing around Juliana Pena inside the ring. This was Kyle Harrison throwing around Juliana Pena. That was not a woman. That was a man. All jokes aside, Harrison 10-8 round number 1 because the referee deducted 2 points for illegal up kicks and then did not give the position back to Kayla Harrison, which is a bit weird, but you could maybe make the argument that he was taking points off Juliana Pena. So it doesn't really make sense to take the points off and then give the position back to Harrison, especially considering the fact she was in full guard. It's not like she was in like mount, you know what I mean? That's round number 1. It was a 10-8 round because Pena got points deducted because she's a muppet. Round number 2, Harrison takes her down again. It looks more like a guard pull to me, to be honest. Like Juliana Pena did not really put that much of a fight to prevent the takedown. You know what I mean? If you watch that takedown back, it just looked like Pena fell backwards. It looked more like a guard. It looked like closer to a guard pull than it did a takedown. Then with about 10 seconds left in the round, Harrison manages to work her way to a Kimura and submits Juliana Pena. That Kimura must have been tight because with 10 seconds left to tap like that Kimura must have been breaking her arm. That's all I'm saying. Either that or she just knew she was going to lose the fight and she was down 2 rounds and she pretty much had to get a finish. So I don't know. I don't know which one it could be. The Kimura could have broken her arm. Who knows? Moving on to the main event, though. I made a separate breakdown for this fight. So I'm going to, cover it slightly. I'm going to, go over round by round. But I already did like a separate 4-minute video. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time discussing and yapping on about this fight. Merab, it was not a round 2 submission. It was a round 3, but it doesn't really matter. I keep like smacking my tongue against the roof of my mouth. It's just peeing me off, basically. O'Malley lands a lot of damage in round number 1, to be fair to him. But Merab lands a takedown. He lands good damage. You could give that round to O'Malley. I thought Merab stole it at the end with a 10-9. But either way, not really bothered. Round 2, Merab's low-key outstriked him on the feet. Merab's stinging him with big shots. He's landing his right hooks. Like, he's blitzing forwards and he's catching O'Malley. He's, like, faking a level change and a takedown and he's catching O'Malley. We go into round number 3. And Merab gets him down straight away. He picks up O'Malley, dunks him on his head, basically. Not on his head, but, he dunks him. Picks him up and slams him. O'Malley hasn't strengthened his guard. And that's what I think the weak point of Merab's game is. And that is where I think someone like a Pantoja or a Corey Sanhagen will be able to exploit this area of Merab's game. Because Merab is just happy to sit in your guard and just go, hey, brother, yeah, brother, yeah. And just hit you with like little tippy-tappy shots. A guy like Sanhagen might be able to cinch up some sort of heel hook or cinch up some sort of triangle choke, or a Pantoja would be able to cinch up an armbar. You know what I mean? O'Malley just doesn't have that danger inside his guard. Even like someone like Aljamain Sterling. I know they're friends, but Aljamain Sterling has a very good or a very dangerous guard where if you're like jumping his guard, he'll land elbows. He'll try and look for some submissions. O'Malley just doesn't have that ability to do that. So when O'Malley gets taken down, it's kind of wraps for him until he just try and, works his way back up to his feet. And then Merab just takes him down again and then submits him. I did not have a Merab submission on my bingo card for this card. That makes no sense. On my bingo card, basically. Merab just submits him. Didn't know that would happen. Merab is an EPO goblin. Nobody beats Merab unless you chin him or submit him. And the only guys I think that could possibly submit him is maybe a Pantoja, because Merab will sit in his guard and Pantoja will catch him like a triangle choke or an armbar, which Merab will not tap to and probably just work his way out of, like he did with Ricky Simone, where he cycled his legs like he's, biking to try and like circulate blood up to his head so he doesn't go out cold. Insane. But in terms of cards, this was my second best ever card ever, and it's my best ever full card because, well, UFC 308, it wasn't it wasn't really a full card, it was a main card that I did. So this was my best prediction card ever, I guess. So hopefully you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.